Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wise Take MMA DFS podcast. I am your host, El Stevo, and with me, as always, is my man, WigSpitter. How's it going this week, Jeff?
Good, man. Just getting ready to go over this UFC Orlando card.
Awesome. We got some good stuff in store tonight. I'm actually really excited, as always. This one's actually kind of a hometown fight. So I'm actually even more excited than normal just because it's down here. It's close by. I got some friends going. I really wanted to make it, but I still wanted to be a part of the podcast with you guys. So besides that, what's going on with you?
Yeah, man, this is actually a pretty fun card. There's a lot of possibilities for knockouts. There's some submissions. There's some battles that can be brewing, both men and women fights. I mean, there's just a lot of possibilities on this card. I think a lot of people are going to overlook it just because of there's not necessarily some mainstream or like to the casual fan, these guys aren't going to necessarily be jumping off the screen to them. But if you watch it with an open mind, there's a lot of guys like, for example, like Ronnie Yaya. I mean, he can put the Brazilian backpack on anybody like real quick
Yeah,
and make the fight just disappear. But for everybody
absolutely.
watching out there on Facebook Live, if you watch the show, at the end of the show, El Stevo is going to announce a contest, and it's a Facebook Live only. So you got to make sure you watch the show, and at the end, you got to make sure you leave your comments in the Facebook Live comment section. Like and share the video, of course, and all that fun stuff. So
Yeah. So guys,
enough
stay
shameless
tuned.
plugs for myself.
Yeah.
Don't forget, the MMA only event passes are only $4.99. That will gain you access to all the premium content. It will gain you access to the premium chat, which me and Steve are always in there, chopping it up with the guys, going over lineup constructions if they have them, any questions they have them, and little stuff like that. My premium article comes out Friday after the weigh-ins. We have a live stream that we have Saturday before the event, and we go over the fight card with the in-depth detailing each fight and whether it's GPP or cash viable, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, case in point, funny enough that you should mention that. I actually did want to start off with just get, the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. And usually, we got to put our money where our mouth is, right? So I actually went and I put together, pulled in a little bit of info here because of the fact that I did want to show off this week. I'm not gonna lie. I made a little bit of money this weekend, but just showing that Wig's picks are usually, like I said, on point. Like I said, so if you guys look real quick, I put it up in the left hand side of the page. That is my screen name. That is DraftKings from this weekend, and that was a $3 entry. I made 5 times the amount of money that I put in, and just to go show that Wig stays making me money, so I actually have
Yeah,
no qualms about taking his advice, and that just goes to show. And I'm relatively new at this, guys. So
right.
if you guys
I mean,
follow.
how long have you been doing it, Steve? What, almost maybe a month now that you've been
Uh,
playing DFS?
About, yeah, little over a month maybe, but yeah. Look, I
So
mean,
yeah,
I started
I mean,
just
if you
taking your
figure,
advice normally, and then
yeah,
I started being on the show, and so far I don't think I've ever gone into a deficit. I don't think my initial investment has never gone away yet. So either
right.
way, I
So you
stay
haven't had to
winning.
redeposit. There
Yeah,
you go. And that's the main key. It's small wins or big wins or small wins. I mean, it's DFS is it's not a it's not a sprint. It's more of a marathon. You got to remember that every mile or every contest that you enter is getting you one step closer to your goal. You're not going to win. You'll have the occasional big GPP win. Like for example, this card UFC Orlando, DraftKings isn't offering very big contests, so I would suggest playing lights. I would suggest playing more in cash, 50-50s and double ups. Entering in a couple of entries into the donkey GPPs, the $4 and the $8. Um, that's going to be, I would say, just do it lightly. I wouldn't suggest going heavy this week. Build your bankroll for next week. Next week is a pay-per-view event, and we'll work on building that stack pretty high.
All right. So yeah, just figured I'd just go to show that we do actually put our money where our mouth is, and we end up winning most of the time. So going forward, let's get right into these fights because there's a lot of them this week. There was one fight canceled.
Right.
It was
Gilbert Burns.
Gilbert
Yeah.
Burns. His fight is canceled due to weight cutting issues. Who is he
Yep.
fighting real quick? I forget. I'm sorry.
Olivier Aubin Mercier.
Okay.
OAM. Yeah. The doctors, the health staff said that it was he was for him in order to make weight, it would be too unhealthy for him, so it put his health in jeopardy. So they told him that it's not in the cards for him. So that's good that they're looking out for the fighter's health. I mean, it's a step in the right direction instead of letting these guys severely dehydrate themselves and push them to the brink of death. I mean, I like what they did there.
Yeah.
That's pretty
I mean, it sucks to train that long for all that, but hey, man, health comes first, plain and simple.
right.
And, like I said, I'm not a big fan of sandbagging, but let's go right into the first fight. I'm really not. But, I mean, if you're cutting that much weight to an unhealthy degree, you probably shouldn't be in that division.
From a DFS standpoint, I love it because I know that guy has an advantage.
Yeah, well, there you go. All right, so moving right in, at 135 pounds, one of my favorite weight classes, bantamweight, we've got Albert Morales versus Manny Bermudez to start the card off on the UFC Fight Pass, the early prelims. We actually got a decent amount of prelims this week. We got Morales, who's 1-3-1 in his last 5 fights. I'm going to be telling you guys a lot about the last 5 fights. Usually, for me, I think it's a good indicator. Maybe a little bit more if I want to show off something. He's coming off a loss to Benito Lopez, and then they've got him pretty much being a measuring stick for a new guy. Manny Bermudez this is going to be his UFC debut. No real advantages per se that I can tell. Obviously, it's a little bit too new for me, especially when it comes to stats. Wig, what do you got?
Yeah, Morales. I mean, if you look at it from a Vegas standpoint, Morales is a 150 underdog, and Bermudez is a 170 favorite. Morales' salary reflects that. He's $7,400 on DraftKings. Bermudez is $8,800. Now, a lot of people are going to overlook Morales, or they could actually be jumping on him as an underdog for value. He is a game fighter. He's a very pressure come forward striker. I mean, if you watch this fight against Benito Lopez, I mean, that was talk about a stand-up war. I mean, it was an awesome fight to watch because both guys were just in there throwing haymakers at each other, flying knees, spinning back fists, spinning head kicks. I mean, it was an awesome fight to watch, but they lost. I mean, if you look at it right down the middle, statistically, they both threw 78 strikes. The only difference is Benito Lopez did work for a submission, and he did have a couple passes when it came to the ground game. I think another telling point about how game of a fighter Morales is, he actually fought Brett Johns, who just finished a couple of guys by submission. He actually went a full 3 rounds to a decision. So he is actually a fairly solid fighter. And I like it from a standpoint where he's not going to necessarily be a tin can or a walkthrough. Bermudez, on the other hand, is a very good submissions specialist. So he's going to have to really work for the submission against a guy like Morales. I don't see Morales just giving up his back and just submitting that easy. But from a GPP standpoint, both these guys are GPP viable.
Okay, very cool. All right, moving right along to the next one. We got a lot of fights to cover tonight. Eric Shelton versus Alex Perez. Perez is 1-0, coming off a win in the UFC. He came from Dana White's Contender Series. He really likes anaconda chokes. Apparently, that's his bread and butter lately. His last 2 wins have come from anacondas. And Eric Shelton, kind of different. He's coming off a win, but he's 1-2. So that means he's 0-2. He basically started off with 2 losses, just came in. They're all decisions on top of that. Split decision losses. Coming off a win, he just beat Janelle Lausa. Again, these guys both look at the. I mean, if you really look at these stats, I mean, flyweight division's a lot of fun to watch, but damn, these guys are identical down the line pretty much. Look at that. I mean, they're a few percentages off from each other. No real statistical advantages that I can tell right off the bat. Right. Any bit of a breakdown or anything else that, I mean, obviously it looks like Perez has a little bit stronger takedown defense that might play a factor in this. I know Shelton's probably looking to keep getting another win. You know, he's hungry, especially after coming off of 2 losses. So, what do you got for me on this one?
Yeah, Perez is actually moving down in weight. He's moving down to 135 from 140. So he's going to be the bigger guy. If he can make the weight cut, come fight day, he's going to be a lot bigger because he's going to have the extra mass that he's going to put back on with the water, and filling back up. Whoa! And Shelton on the other.
Oh, you all right there? Oh yeah, man,
Shelton on the other. Oh man.
Well, technical difficulties. Man down.
Shelton on the other hand.
All right, we just need to wait.
Oh boy, that's why we're live. We're live. It's freaking amazing. Is that all right?
Yeah, you're fine, man. Keep
it going. Oh man, that's hilarious. That caught me off guard. I saw it just like bouncing at me. I was like, oh boy, here we go.
It was fun, I'm sure, for the audience. I'm seeing it in like live big stuff, so it's all like the screen is having a seizure. But either way, all right, moving right along. So
so Shelton is very athletic. He's a decent striker. I see Perez being the bigger guy, like I said. From a lineup construction, Shelton's salary is $7,500, and he's plus 135 underdog. Perez's salary is 8,700. He's a minus 155 favorite. So from that, you can obviously tell DraftKings, when they made the pricing, they sort of inflated Perez's salary. I think this fight's going to be a little bit closer than what it is. I mean, Shelton isn't necessarily a walkover, even though he is 1-2 in the UFC. He does have fairly decent striking, but his takedown defense is below average. So, and with Perez being a very aggressive grappler, and he has solid takedown skills, that could score some points when it comes to your DraftKings lineup. I think Perez is definitely cash and GPP viable, but I think he might be a little risky on the cash side. But I think Shelton might be worth a flyer because I think he could push for a decision. I mean, it's one of those things. But yeah, that's what I have for that fight so far.
Okay, not too shabby. Yeah, we'll get into it more over the weekend. Like I said, these are just our initial views, guys. So if you really want to get our in-depth take, especially when it comes to GPP, cash, and just DFS in general, come check us out on the weekend. Come check us out with the MMA package. That's where we're there pretty much bright and early every Saturday. We've got it kind of locked down, and by then we'll definitely have more insight. We've watched a ton more fight video and done all of our research, and Wig is especially good at it. So he really, a lot of the times he starts out one way, and then by the end of the week, we got a completely different take sometimes.
Sometimes I have to trust my gut too, because I talk myself off of fighters, and I did that a couple times.
Yeah,
which all right. I mean, it's part of the process. And I mean, if the video tells you one thing, I mean, that's one of the things I have to pay attention to is if the video tells me that that's the way I should lean, that's the way I should lean. So
yeah, absolutely. No, man, so far, like I said, when you trust your gut, you're usually on fire. So I trust your gut too. So going right along, and actually, I'm surprised that this fight in and of itself is actually so low on the card, because this one's good. This one's actually one I'm looking forward to, even though, I mean, don't let it fool you. Like Russell Doan versus Ronnie Yanya. Russell Doan is, or Doane, I don't know exactly, but I think it's Doan. He's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. He's just coming off of a win. Just beat Kwan Ho Kwak by TKO. We got Ronnie Yaya, on the other hand, who's 5-1 in his last 6 fights, and he just beat Enrique Briones by Kimura. The only thing that scares me about this fight is the fact that Ronnie Yaya's last loss was to Joe Soto, and I think Joe Soto got mopped the last fight. I mean, he got wrecked. Usually, it was a quick
Yeah.
one. He actually went, and I don't know if I think I put him in a lineup, and I knew better, just a random contrarian lineup, and I regretted it just because that lineup did so well being a contrarian. But anyways, long story short,
Yeah.
this one should be a good fight to watch. Period. And it sucks that
Hmm.
it's on the prelims because if you don't have UFC Fight Pass, you may not get to see it. But this is a
Right.
fight that I'm actually looking forward to. As you can see, their stats are kind of different. Russell Doan is more of a striker. Ronnie
Hmm.
Yaya is much more of a grappling submission artist. There's Doan has a 3-inch reach advantage, so not really that much of one. They land about the same strikes per minute, but still, these guys both have potential to pop off at any time and turn this into this potentially could be fight of the night. Really, just on the low end, you never know. Especially on the low end, these guys don't want to be at this part of the card. It costs them
Right.
money in a sense. So I think that these guys are definitely going to try to put on a show to show why they need to be at the very least on the Fox prelims.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like when I saw Yaya was on the undercard, I was like, wait a second, he's on the prelims? I was like,
Yeah.
this dude is a submission. He has world-class jujitsu. I was like, what is going on here? But I guess, they needed somebody, especially the last 4 cards. There's been 1 or 2 fights on the prelims. So I think maybe they've been getting a lot of blast back from actual Fight Pass subscribers. So it's a possibility that they had to like sort of stack the prelims card, especially with it being a fight night. I think last week there was only 1 fight on the prelims or 2,
There was only
but
2 last week.
it was brutal. And then the week before that it was 1. I was like, why would you want to pay what is it, $14.99 a month
No,
to watch
I'd hope
one
not.
fight?
Yeah, $10
Watch
or
one
something.
fight? It's like, come on, man, that's not cool.
Yeah.
But back to the card. Yaya, like I said, is a world-class jiu-jitsu practitioner. He has improved striking. He will stand and bang up. It doesn't really matter. Like Doan, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
He's got decent power. He has. I wouldn't say that he has technical striking, but he has solid striking. Um, his grappling is suspect. So if he gets backpacked, I mean, it's probably going to be an early night. He's going to get turned into a pretzel pretty quick. Yaya's salary is one of the highest on the card. It's 9,300. He's a -255 favorite. Joanne's salary is 6,900, and he's a -215 underdog. One of the things we got to look at, especially from a DFS standpoint, is value. And Dawn is value. I mean, 6,900. I mean, you can't really get any cheaper than that. I think 6,800 was the lowest we've seen a couple weeks ago. But from a DFS standpoint, I mean, if you're making multiple lineups, it's definitely worth a flyer because if he's able to stop anybody, if he can keep the fight standing and not get taken down, he does have a puncher's chance. So at 6,900, it's possibly worth a flyer. At the same time, it will give you a lot of flexibility when it comes to building your lineup. But Yaya is definitely a solid GPP play. But at 9,300, it's sort of going to handicap you, and you're going to have to pick somebody. You're gonna have to pick somebody to. You're gonna have to take a flyer when it comes to doing your building your lineup, and that right there by taking a flyer, you're basically handicapping yourself and hoping for a home run. So it's Yaya's. I mean, that salary is sort of steep. So if he fits into your build, then that's awesome. But at the same time, I think he probably is going to be lower owned just because of how high of a salary is.
Yeah.
I think he could be cash viable. But like I said, it's just going to handicap you, and you're going to have to sort of push the limit when it comes to taking the risk versus reward approach.
Yeah, that's he's a little bit pricier than I expected. I mean, I know Yaya is good, but that really hurts kind of my lineup building. But we'll talk about more of that this weekend. Going forward, let's go right to the next fight to get out of these prelims because there's a lot more fights to go on. There is Sam Alvey versus Marcin Prachnio. Alvey's 4-2 in his last 6, so that's not bad. His last loss was to Ramazan Emeev. His last win was against Rashad Evans. He hasn't. I mean, he's an all right fighter. not really beaten any notable names. I mean, just plain and simple. So I like him, but I mean, beating kind of a Rashad Evans at probably the tail end of his career isn't really saying much. I think, was it him that spoiled Rashad Evans' move to middleweight? I forget. Was it him or was it somebody else?
I don't know. He's lost so many times recently.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that hurts. That hurts Alvy's credibility just because.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, what does that tell you? But Perchinio, on the other hand, this is his UFC debut. He's riding an 8-fight win streak. They're both strikers. Their submission rate is pretty low. And this is actually at light heavyweight as well. Right. So it looks like Alvy went up, because I'm pretty sure the last time it was at middleweight. So Alvy's going up, which doesn't really speak to me much about his chances either, just based on excuse me, just based on what I'm seeing from him. Alvy's like, I don't know, middle of the road fighter. He got his biggest win off Rashad Evans. I don't know a lot about Perchinio, but an 8-fight win streak isn't too bad, so he's riding high right now. You may want to check out. Check out the chat from what Patio Joe seems to is watching. What's up, Joe? And if anything, if he's saying check out the chat. Looks like they're having fun in there as usual. So if anything, what you got for this one?
Smiling Sam, when it comes to DFS, he's brutal, bro. Like, he is one of those guys that, unless he gets the knockout, I mean, he's not going to score very much, which is highly, I mean, it's possible. Anything's possible. But at the same time, you're not going to be able to, I mean, you're taking, I mean, when you talk about risk versus reward, you're taking a huge risk, because if you look at his game logs for Sam Alvey, I think even in a win, he scored like 68 points. I mean, it's like, whoa. I mean, 80 points, I think, was his highest in his last few fights.
Oof.
That is brutal. So with that being said, you got to think he's going to be lower owned at 70. So his salary is 7,200. He's a plus 230 underdog. Perchinio is 9,000, and he's a minus 700 favorite. Now, Perchinio, I think he has a karate base, so he's going to be a very technical striker. He's going to have very crisp kicks. If he can fight at distance, I think Alvy's going to have a big problem with that. He's not going to be able to keep up, and it's going to be one of those rough nights for him, because Alvy isn't necessarily very busy on the feet. He tends to be like he'll come in with a single shot, and then if he can try to throw in that right hand haymaker, that's like his move. That's what he does. And I just don't see that paying off so much. So from a GPP standpoint, I think Alvy is definitely a contrarian pick. I think he will be low just because how low he has been putting out. And with Perchinio making his UFC debut, he can either wilt under the bright lights, or he can definitely shine, like for example, like Adesanya, and who else did fairly well in their debut, like Melender.
Melender did great last week.
Those guys did pretty good.
Absolutely. Okay, very cool. We'll go right along. Finally, we're moving on to the Fox prelims right after that. This one has also some notably named fighters on it as well. So we're going to go right into that. Let's see. It's Ben Saunders, Killer B versus Alan Jobin. Alan Jobin, he's interesting. He's funny to me. I'm going to start with him. Again, you guys are going to hear me for the rest of the evening say pretty much 3-2 out of their last 5 fights. Everybody on this card seems to be 3-2 in their last 5 fights. There's very few differences. Just I noticed that as I was doing my research, I was checking out stuff, and I'm like, wow. I don't know if they do that on purpose or if that just ended up that way. But anyways, Alan Jobin. I like watching this guy fight. I think this guy just needs to let go a little bit sometimes. He's on a 2-fight losing streak currently. His last win, I should say, was, in my opinion, against the overhyped Mike Perry. Mike Platinum Perry, who's also on this card. We'll talk about him a little later. He's got some notable. I mean, his losses though. He's lost to Nico Price and Gunnar Nelson. Gunnar Nelson is a tough dude. Nico Price isn't doing too bad lately. But Jobin's the kind of guy. I mean, he's more of a striker, and he can grind you out. He's one of those guys, again, especially against Mike Perry. He ground out a win against him. Everybody thought that he was pretty much done for because of the hype that Mike Perry brings to the fight. But frankly, he stuck to his guns, and he knew that he was the underdog, and he didn't want to get blasted or knocked out, and he was able to do it. So I think he just needs to take that attitude going forward, and this guy would be a much more of a contender. Ben Saunders, however, Ben Saunders has been up and down again. One of these guys is perennially like in and out of the UFC. He's again 3-2 out of his last 5 fights. He's the hometown guy. He just lost to Peter Sabota by TKO. I mean, but it's funny because his last few wins, not against too many notable people. Court McGee, Jacob Volkman. But it's just funny with Ben Saunders because he'll either grind out a decision or he'll lose by TKO. That's just how it goes with him, it seems, from his past so far. He can be fun to watch because he does come to fight, but it just depends if it's his night or not, or if he decides to block fists with his face. I'm not sure yet. So the jury's out for me personally with Ben Saunders. I like him. He makes for exciting fights. This fight could be either very, very exciting or very, very lackluster, depending on whether or not these two guys come to fight. He's the hometown guy, so I see Ben Saunders coming out strong. I don't know about Alan Jobin, though. So that's my take. What do you think? Who's got the edge on this one?
I can't tell you, man. I got to be honest with you. Both these guys are 10th planet jiu-jitsu guys, and most of the time Ben Saunders has Eddie Bravo in his corner, and that's not going to happen this time. So I wonder who's going to corner them. Ben Saunders is a pretty decent jiu-jitsu guy. Jobin is pretty much a striker, and with like suspect takedown defense. Ben Saunders isn't necessarily a takedown guy, so I mean, what are they going to do? Stand and bang? Okay, if that happens, both of them have suspect chin. So,
oh man. So yeah, this one's a toss-up.
It's a toss-up, big time. Now, the crazy thing is Saunders' salary is $7,100. He's a plus 210 underdog, and Jobin is 9,100, and he's a minus 250 favorite. Right?
Okay.
Now, I would say both these guys are like, it's GPP only for me. Like, Jobin is definitely he could score the knockout, and he could push the pressure on Saunders, but Saunders is definitely one of those guys. He's a solid counter striker. He could hit him with an elbow coming in, flying knee. I mean, he's lanky. He's a tall, lanky dude. So, and Jobin's been chinny. He's known to be chinny himself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of those toss-ups, like a coin toss. Who do you think's going to win? I would, if I was to have to push to pick on who's going to win, I think maybe I give the edge to Jobin, but I don't know, man. Both of them, it's risky. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they did a straight Rocky movie and they knocked each other out at the same time.
Yeah, unfortunately, these guys.
And neither of them win.
Yeah, this one I'm still on the fence about because Ben Saunders, like I said, is a hometown guy and he's the underdog, which is weird. So also, since he's hometown, you might want to look out for hometown cooking a little bit there. The edge, if it goes to decision, who can say? Unless it's completely lopsided. But going forward, let's get to the next one because this is another one that I'm actually very excited about. A lot of exciting fighters on this one. This next one's coming up is Marina Munoz versus Angela Overkill Hill. I like Angela Overkill Hill. She is fun to watch, and I love the fact that she like cosplays to every weigh-in. I think the last time I saw her, she was dressed like Sagat from Street Fighter. And if you guys know me, I'm a big video game head, especially Street Fighter fan, so I thought that was the coolest thing. I mean, she comes to fight, man. She is no joke. She's 1-2 in the UFC. She's a very exciting fighter. I think, wasn't she a former Invicta champion?
Yeah, she actually left the UFC, went to Invicta and won the belt, came back and then lost.
Ouch. But hey, at the very least, I know that she's exciting, for me at least. I mean, she comes to fight. Most of the time, in this kind of a fight, especially at strawweight, these girls really come to stand and bang, and she's willing to do that. Munoz is 3-2 again, 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Her recent loss was to Carla Esparza, the former the former flyweight champ. Yeah, former flyweight champ.
Yep.
Besides that, no real notable wins. My personal pick, I'd probably go and for Angela Hill, but I'm biased. Like I said, I'm actually going just off of what I've seen, and Angela Hill's always fun to watch fighting.
Yeah, I mean, she reminds me of a female version of Dominic Cruz. She has that real like Willie Pep, in and out, up and down, taking, she's going to tag you left and right, get the teep kicks in. She's going to kick to the body. She's going to work the body, jab to the head, and then she's going to, jump back out of the way. She keeps herself out of harm's way. Moros is a pretty solid striker. I think she's the lead striking trainer for the Ukraine. I want to say it's their boxing team or something like that. So she's a high level, striker, but at the same time she's not very active. I think she only throws like 2.5 strikes per minute. Her takedown defense is suspect. I don't see Angela Hill taking her down or anything like that. I think it's probably going to be a stand-up battle, and I think it's probably going to go to decision. Moroz's salary on DK is 8,000. She's a plus 130 underdog, and Hill's salary is 8,200, and she's a minus 150 favorite. I like Angela Hill probably to squeak out the decision in this fight, but it's all going to depend on if she can keep the distance and push the pressure.
Yeah.
Because Moros isn't necessarily a high volume striker, but she does have a little bit of power. She does have sneaky submission skills, so you got to keep an eye on that if she does take her down, or work from the bottom anyways.
Yeah, exactly. This one could go either way, but I actually feel Angela Hill is going to take it. Hopefully, crack the top 15 finally, and move right into bigger fights. Like I said, she's fun to watch, man. Even if she loses, man, she goes down like a champ. She goes down swinging every time, like literally.
Yeah.
Anywho, going to the next one. We got Sarah McMahon versus Marion Renault. Sarah McMahon, this is an interesting fight for me because, again, McMahon is 3-2 in her last 5 fights, but she's got some notable wins against some game competition. She's beaten Alexis Davis. She's beaten Jessica Ai. I mean, her losses are to top-level talent. Miesha Tate, again, former champ. Amanda Nunes, current champ. And her last loss was to Ketlin Vieira, who I don't know too much about, but McMahon is mostly a grappler. I mean, she's I believe a silver medalist also, and an Olympic medalist as well. She's an incredible wrestler. If she takes people to the ground, they're not getting up. Plain and simple. The problem is if she takes them to the ground, because other people obviously have more tools than just grappling. Renault is 2-1 in her last 5 fights. She had a draw with Betch Correa, which actually was fun to watch. It was an interesting fight. Coming off 2 wins, but again, she's also fought some game opponents, but she's lost to. She lost notable losses to Holly Holm and Ashley Evans Smith. She beat Jessica Andrade before, and Alexis Dufresne. And here's the funny part, dude. This is why you can't knock people who are older, man. She's 40 years old and still killing them. I mean, she is a murderer in this ring, and she's no slouch. So this is another fight that I'm torn on because it really just depends on where it goes. And it's I'm telling you, it's a striker versus grappler fight, but it's not that simple because both of them can strike, both of them can have tools everywhere, and they can literally. It really just depends whose night it is, honestly, on this one for me, because these girls they come to fight. They don't let it fool you. They don't like to grind things out. Even though McMahon is known for decisions, it's a fight the whole time. So another exciting fight because styles make fights, but in this one, these guys are so good at what they do already that it could go either way very quickly. Right.
Now, when the pricing came out for this, I did not understand why. Like, McMahon's salary is 8,900. She's a minus 220 favorite. Renault's salary is 7,300, and she's a plus 180 underdog.
What?
I did not expect it to be that far of a disparity. Like, I mean, she's I mean, McMahon sells 1,600 more. I thought it would be more like the 8,000, 8,100, 80,
This
some
is
in that
way too
range.
close of a fight for that.
Yeah. And I
That's
think,
weird.
it's one of those things where I don't know if they just put too much weight in the initial odds, which is fine because I mean that makes Renault like the perfect GPP value play. And McMahon, the only thing that scares me about McMahon is she doesn't like getting hit in the face. She does not like getting hit, and she tends to be real tentative. Once she gets hit, her whole game plan goes out the door. She does revert back to her roots, and she starts grappling. She goes for takedowns. If that happens, Renault will jump into guard and possibly work for a triangle choke, maybe some type of armbar. Um, this fight is actually very intriguing because I mean the line is way off. I don't understand how they were priced so far apart. Both do have path to victory, but at the same time, I think even though Renault at the age of 40, she's no slouch. You can't really count her out. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. All right. The final fight on the Fox prelims. Funny enough to me, and this is another one that's just odd to me. This one's an odd one, and it's Renan Barao versus Brian Kelleher. Now, Brian Kelleher is 2-1 in the UFC. He's coming off a win against Damian Stasiak. His last losses were to Marlon Vieira, and he beat Yuri Alcantara. So I mean, that's essentially his last three fights. Not too bad. But then you've got Renan Barao, who's 2-4 in his last six, which is just surprising considering the level of pedigree that he has. Mind you, this is the former 135-pound champion. He's barely mid-carding it. It's
Right.
really weird. For me, I mean, Barao was dominant when he was, I don't know, just interim or became the 135-pound champ when Dominic Cruz was out for a couple years. He held that belt for a while. Nobody could take it from him. I mean, he hadn't lost in 10 years, I think it was, before he ran into TJ Dillashaw. He lost the belt to TJ Dillashaw, beat Mitch Gagnon, which isn't really much to write home about, lost to Dillashaw again. Then he lost to Jeremy Stevens, which Stevens is on the come up, but we're going to get to him in just a little bit. Beat, again, Felipe Nover, and then also just lost to Aljamain Sterling, which Aljamain Sterling, I at one point really never thought Aljamain Sterling would ever get to that level. But I don't know if just Barao's on the decline or what, because this guy's another absolutely solid fighter. At 135, I mean, come on. This guy hadn't lost in years, and he fought against some of the best. I mean, look, TJ Dillashaw's at the top of the food chain right now, but he never, he's always been. So, I mean, the loss to Dillashaw is not anything bad per se. Most people do lose to him. I'm not a fan of Dillashaw's because of his personality-wise, but guy's
Not too
incredible.
hard. It's not too hard to slither to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
I like that. I'm gonna have to use that. But so Renan's got a 4-inch reach advantage. I mean, Renan Barao can strike. He doesn't put out as much output. I guess in recent times he's gotten more tentative. Just because I don't know what's gone on with him. Kelleher, I'm a little unknown about, but if you look at their stats, Kelleher probably likes to stand and bang just based on his KO percentage, which isn't too bad. His submission percentage is also about the same as Barao's, but Barao I would give the nod any day of the week to Barao's jiu-jitsu over Kelleher's, just because again the guy's had so much experience, and that's his bread and butter, man. He comes from Brazil, and he comes from where the same place that Jose Aldo trains at, so he's no joke. Not even by a long shot. I would never completely count out Renan Barao. I mean, I guess lately he's gotten a little bit chinny, like Wig likes to say. He's getting a little bit.
the
He's got his
buttons have been
clock cleaned a
popped.
couple times. Yeah. So I mean, on this one, I mean, I'm kind of leaning towards Barao based on what I know of him. Kelleher's a relative unknown comparatively, and it's just kind of weird that they would kind of be dissing Barao with a mid card fight. But I guess I can see why. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean his current performance. I mean, it's that the whole goes back to the Janet Jackson. Well, what have you done for me lately? Um, he's fighting. This fight's at 135. He hasn't fought at 135 in a while. He just hasn't looked like himself, and this is reminiscent of last week's card with Thiago Alves and Melinder. A lot of people don't really necessarily know Keller, but this dude is I mean, he's tough, man. He's a solid striker. He has aggressive grappling. He comes forward, he moves forward, and he's just going to put it on you. Barao is not necessarily one of those guys who does well in those type of exchanges. So it's possible that he um, will have a challenge ahead of him. Barao's salary is 8,500. He's a minus 155 favorite. Keller's salary is 7,700. He's a plus 135 underdog. This fight, I mean, it's one of those things where I can't gamble on Barao because you don't know what you're going to get, and it's similar to Alves last week. And I think Keller doesn't have the power that Melinder has, but he does have the tenacity, the grit. I think that's probably could push him over the top. So I see Keller as a GPP only, but I'm not sure if I'm willing to if Barao's going to make my player pool at 8,500.
Price points, so yeah, price point's a little bit high, I guess, but I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to fit somebody at that price point too, man. At that point, you really got to start picking and choosing.
Sorry, it's right in the middle of the road. You're like,
yeah,
you could go a couple $100 more and get somebody who's a little more stable. You go a couple $100 less and have the same action. So, with less risk.
Yeah, that one's a toss up. Like I said, this weekend we'll break it down just a little bit more in the hopes that maybe we'll kind of more clear cut, especially just because we're still building lineups as we speak. I mean, you see me looking down is because I'm actually looking at the price points myself, trying to see what lineups I can put in as well. Going right along, all right, to the main card. This is the bread and butter of the night. We've got, in my opinion, Mr. Overhyped Platinum Mike Perry versus Max Griffin. Mind you, Mike Perry, he's not bad. He's currently 11-2 in the UFC. He's also 3-2 out of his last 3-2 out of the last 5 fights. He's coming off a loss to Santiago Ponzinibbio. Who? Kind of like, really? The Ponzinibbio. And then his last...
Ponzinibbio is no joke, bro. That dude's good.
Yeah, no, he's coming up slowly, but it's one of those things that for a guy who likes to hear himself talk so much, you know what I mean? You'd think he'd be a little bit better at what he does. I don't know. Perry, for me, I don't know. Personally, he just hypes himself so much, and then when he comes in off of that hype, he ends up getting wrecked or ends up losing in fashion that I've just, I don't know. Usually, guys that talk that much can usually back it up. And for me, it's, maybe he should just talk less and fight more. I don't know. That's for me. And me, I'm somebody who talks a lot. So so he's, his last couple wins were against Alex Reyes, again, and then Jake Ellenberger. And Ellenberger had a resurgence as of late, but I mean, he stopped. I mean, I guess Perry stopped that with a nasty knee. That was a pretty cool highlight reel finish. But, again, for me, Perry's too up and down and hasn't fought anybody notable, in my opinion. Though nobody that I was like, oh, man, let's stop and take notice. Hey, who knows? Maybe I'll eat my words this weekend. But again, who's Max Griffin? Max Griffin is 1-2. He's coming off a loss to Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos. He beat Eric Montano and he lost to Colby Covington. Like, already, Max Griffin has lost to better competition than Mike Perry has beat. So I mean, to me, I guess I'd almost want to go just to be a contrarian, just to be negative. I almost want to go and fight with put Mike Griffin in my roster in the hopes that it'll just be another spoiler for Mike Perry. So that's my hot take on it. I guess I've seen enough of Mike Perry to be like, he's not as impressive as he thinks he is. So maybe hopefully he's tuned up his game. I mean, Max Griffin right now, from what it looks like, has a 5-inch reach advantage, which is pretty big. It's pretty big. His looks like all of Mike Perry's fights though have ended in knockouts, but about half of that has been for Mike Griffin. More decisions. I'm looking just a quick look at the stats. I mean, everything else is kind of right down the line. I mean, Mike Perry does output a little bit more, but that reach advantage might be a problem to Mike Perry. I don't know if he plans for these things. So, honestly, I'll go right with your take because right now they're kind of right down the line. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Perry's the whole boomer bust guy, right?
That's a great way to put it, actually.
He's going to go in there. He's going to eat punches with his face, and he's going to try to dish out as much damage as he can. And if he lands the home run hit, then he's going to look like a genius because all the crap that he's talked all week. And then if he doesn't, like he did in this last fight against Santiago Ponzinibbio, who can eat the shots and grind out the decision and work from a distance and chop his leg out, then he doesn't look so good. So I think the problem with it is this is basically a striker versus striker, and both the guys are going to go in there, stand and bang, and see who has more power. There's been a little bit of talk about the run-ins that they've had throughout their time together. I think they both started on. I think they both fought on the same card initially. I think Max Payne had his same debut the same day Mike Perry did on the same card or something like that. And I think they talked a little bit. I don't know if they talked crap to each other or whatever, but I have a feeling that this is going to be one of those wars where they just go in there, stand in the pocket, and they just wing punches until one of them goes down.
So it could be fun to watch.
So it could be fun to watch, but at the same time, like, who do you pick?
Yeah.
Perry's salary is the highest on the card at $9,400. Griffin's salary is the cheapest on the card at $6,800.
Wow. So they're not expecting much from Griffin, which makes me even want to pick him even more.
Not expecting it. Yeah, exactly. And, according to Vegas, Perry is a 340 favorite. Griffin is a plus 280 underdog. So it's one of those things where the risk versus reward. They both have the opportunity to knock each other out. Both of them have been stopped. So who's going to get there first? If Griffin could fight at distance and chop the leg out, or maybe even work for a takedown because Perry has suspect takedown defense. And then supposedly he's been working on his cardio, and he throws everything he has into his punches. So it's not like he's going to stand and try to pace himself. He throws everything with ill intention. So that's basically what it's going to boil down to. He wants to get in and out of there. He wants to look like the hero. He wants to have the walk-off home run, which is warranted. I mean, against a guy like Max Griffin, it's possible, but at the same time, if he leaves himself open to get caught, I mean, he can easily have his lights shut out just as anybody else. Because I mean, those 4-ounce gloves are no joke.
Yeah. I'm hoping that Max Griffin fights smart, to be honest. Like I said, it's one thing to talk the talk, but you got to walk the walk once it's there. And like I said, people may talk a lot of smack about Conor McGregor, but very few times has he been wrong about what he's done. What he's going to go in there and do. You know what I mean? This guy, a lot of people are trying to replicate that, but can't seem to back it up. You know what I mean? And that's my thing. If you're going to talk a lot, you better put on a show. You better make sure you're right.
The thing is with Conor is everybody gets baited into a stand-up battle. When the hole in his game is about the size of the Pacific Ocean, which is his grappling. You take him down, he's done. He's a fish out of water.
Oh, and
yeah. He flops around, and he doesn't want to be there. He's totally uncomfortable. If you put him standing up, he knows he has a fighter's chance, and he's gonna use his precision striking and his timing, to nail you.
Yeah. Plain and simple, and that's what it is, and that's why he can call his shot, because he goes and he works on the man mentally from the minute that they know that contract is signed. This guy doesn't exactly have that gift, you know what I mean? I guess that's why. Maybe I'm hating too hard, but right now, Mike Perry doesn't do anything for me personally.
He's definitely lost his luster, though. I agree with you on that one.
Cool. So yeah, so on to the next one. This is also another interesting fight. We've got, one second, sorry about that. Let me see something here. I actually just lost my notes for a sec here. Oh, all right. We've got Ovince St. Preux versus Ilir Latifi. And this one actually should be very, very interesting. simply because of the fact that both of these guys are coming off of wins. They're actually becoming way more impressive, and they're just quietly going up the rankings. Ovince St. Preux never really left the top 10 since he's been in there. He's had plenty of top level competition. He's again 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He's on a 3-fight win streak though, and they're all finishes. Last one was a head kick to Corey Anderson, and he also, I think, submitted Yushin Okami. You know, and Yushin Okami's no joke no matter what weight you put him at.
Yeah, but he's like 80.
What happened? I'm sorry?
Yeah, Yushin Okami's like 80 though.
80? Oh, well, yeah, he's been in there for a while, but it's true. I actually enjoy watching Yushin Okami. He's not bad. He comes to fight. He's actually a decent fighter, but he's been there a while. So, but Ilir Latifi, on the other hand, is 4-1 in his last fight. He beat Tyson Pedro, who just came off a win in one of the last couple cards, and Tyson Pedro looked good. He looked really good in his last fight. His last loss was to Ryan Bader. I mean, he's beaten guys like Gian Vellante, who's also, I think, coming off another win or two. So this one looks like to be kind of a line in the sand kind of a deal. Who's really deserves to be in the top 5, you know, in the light heavyweight division, which will probably lead to one of these guys maybe challenging DC for his belt. You know, stat wise, St. Preux's long, man. St. Preux is a good 6 or 7 inches longer than Latifi, but Latifi's like a little tank though too. So, you know, I mean, if he can get past that length, I mean, it's gonna make for an interesting fight. You take it away, man. What you got for this one?
I'm not sure what length you're talking about, bro. I'm just messing with you.
Oh.
Yeah, man. Ovince St. Preux is one of those guys, man. His style doesn't necessarily. He's going to have you on the edge of your seat because for 1 second, he'll look like he's just sort of taking the fight, you know, that round off and just sort of standing back, picking his shots. You know, he has decent grappling. He doesn't necessarily get hit much, but you know, Latifi is built like you said, he's built like a tank. He is going to be a little bit shorter. His reach. He's going to have a little bit of a reach disadvantage, but he's very athletic. He is a strong wrestler. He has very good grappling. He has wicked punches and elbows. He has a grinding type style. And I think a lot of people are going to overlook Latifi. St. Preux' salary is $8,300. He's a minus 130 favorite. Latifi's salary is $7,900. He's a plus 110 underdog. It's fairly close to a pick 'em, and I totally agree with the line. Yeah, he did beat Tyson Pedro in his last fight, but Pedro doesn't necessarily have his striking up to par yet. He's still developing that part of his game, but his ground game is very high level from that standpoint. But yeah, man, I have OSP as possibly a GPP play. And Latifi more of a both of them a GPP plays. I would almost say if you're going to make multiple lineups, I would have one OSP line and one Latifi line, just because of the possibility of it. But I think I have a little bit of an edge towards OSP just because he has a little bit of those submission skills that he has are a little bit insane. I mean, with those 2 Von Flue chokes, we're pretty high level, man. But I mean, it's still. I mean, we still have a couple days before I'm going to make my decision. I haven't built any lineups. I put in about. I have like 4 entries right now. 2 in the $4 and 2 in the $8 GPPs. I haven't entered any 50/50s or cashes yet, but it's just dummy lineups, just placeholders, so I don't lose my spot inside the tournament. I haven't really did any actual roster construction yet, but
yeah. That's a pro tip for you guys,
I definitely would try to, if you're leaning one way or the other, I think OSP line and then a Latifi line, that would probably like a hedge type thing.
Yeah, so like I was saying, that was a pro tip. Usually, guys, if you guys want to get into some of the better tournaments, one thing I've learned is just go in early and make a lineup. Doesn't matter if it's the one you want to keep. It just gets you into that tournament. Once you're in the tournament, then you can mess around with your lineups however you feel. But me, myself, I've personally missed out on a couple of really good tourneys that I would have made some decent money had I gone and made lineups early. Had I just gone in early. If you know you're going to play early. You don't have to pick it right away. Just make sure you do it before. This one starts, at least to my knowledge, 4 p.m. Eastern time. In case you guys are watching on the West Coast, that's 1 p.m. West Coast time, Pacific time. So do it before 1 p.m. and you're straight. You're awesome. And then that way you can get in there and hopefully make some money with us. All right, moving right along. That one I'm actually really looking forward to. It's also another one. I like the heavier weights, especially when they're athletic dudes like these guys. So these guys, I mean, I'm hoping that they put on a good show. They deserve more credit than they get, both of them. So I couldn't tell you who could win. I love it when fight week is interesting, when I'm playing DFS and there's fights that I just don't know the outcome to. It's like a good murder mystery or something. Somebody's going down. But, you got to read, you got to stay tuned to find out who.
And, the thing is, too, is like if somebody goes to sleep, it's going to be one of two ways. It's either they're going to get knocked out or in like St. Prue's position, he's going to choke him out. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
he did.
I look at the fight as path to victory. And that's where you have to sort of make your decision on how the conclusion could end. So,
yeah. I mean, this is one of the few guys that's ever done a Von Flue choke. And if you've ever done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that's not exactly a typical move. And you need to be very skilled to pull that off.
Yep.
So there's at least one pro tip. But yeah, a Von Flue choke is no joke. Being on the receiving end of it sucks. But the fact that he can pull it off, is incredible. Anywho, moving right along. Let's see. This is another really good fight. I'm excited for the strawweight division. I've actually been saying for like a year or two now that these two should fight because there's some high-level talent here. And that is Jessica Andrade versus Tecia Torres. This is a good fight overall. Funny enough, most of Tecia Torres' fights go to decision, but it's because she's so very skilled. These girls are both 4-1 in their last 5 fights. Torres is riding a 3-fight win streak. She just beat Michelle Waterson, who beat Paige Van Zandt, who, again, the only loss that she's beaten Michelle Waterson, Juliana Lima, Beck Rawlings, and her last loss was to the champ, the current champ, Rose Namajunas. So, I mean, and if Rose Namajunas can beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk, I mean, what does that tell you about Tecia? I mean, she's right there. And Rose, Rose is no joke, but Rose, I mean, had some holes in her game. So, I mean, it's very possible any of these women in the top 5 could take that belt. Plain and simple. Jessica Andrade is just another powerhouse in this division, period. Her last win was against Claudia Gadelha, again, who's no joke. Her last loss was to Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She's beaten Angela Hill. She's beaten Joanne Calderwood, Jessica Penne. I mean, these guys have gone through killer's rows, So this is going to be a fun fight to watch. I mean, Tecia Torres' only loss is to the champion. So that speaks volumes, in my opinion. With Tecia Torres, you're gonna get a 5-round fight, pretty much. You're gonna get. She's not gonna gas out. She's gonna fight the whole time. You are gonna be sitting there watching for a good 15 to 25 minutes, depending on where they put her in the lineup. Plain and simple. Knocking her out is not easy because she's very skilled, very talented. She has a decent ground game. She has a decent stand-up game. And this fight in general is going to be who executes more. They have similar stats. Jessica Andrade has a little bit more output, but Tecia Torres has a way of slowing down these fights to beat her pace. So, this could very well be an upset of Andrade if she's not careful. On that note, that's my take. Again, it's right down the line. Tecia Torres is a very game fighter. I mean, she's constantly training. She is constantly training. She's constantly looking for a fight. So she's never out of the gym. She's a lot of the time she spends time asking the UFC to give her fights. And she's not prone to injuries. She's not prone to getting really knocked out or anything. So this one's a pick 'em for me.
Yeah. The only thing that concerns me is excuse me. Andrade is actually cutting weight from 135 down to 115. So she's going to be the bigger lady in the ring, dude, in the cage. And she's already a pretty, I mean, aggressive, dominant, explosive fighter. And then for her to move down in weight to fight, a smaller fighter like Tisha, I mean, man, it almost has mismatch written all over it. But then at the same time, with the way Tisha fights, she could easily try to dictate, push the fight where she wants it to go, keep the fight at distance. Um, with her striking and her movement, she could easily dictate the fight where she wants it to go. But at the same time, Andrade is a monster, and especially with her going down to, I mean, I'm interested to see if she can make the weight cut. If she can make the weight cut, that's even going to be even more scarier because then it's almost going to be, when she fills back up, she's probably going to be like 140.
Yeah, she's definitely bigger than Tisha.
That's going to be a lot. And and it's not going to be fat. It's going to. I mean, these ladies are ripped, man. I mean, and that's one thing I love about the women fights is they go in there and they stand and bang. They go in there, put everything on the line. They don't hold anything back. Andrade's salary is 9,200, and she's a minus 320 favorite. Torres' salary is 7,000, and she's a plus 260 underdog. Now, from a GPP or a DFS standpoint, at 9,200, if it goes to decision, maybe you're looking at with strike output, significant strikes, maybe a possible couple takedowns. Andrade could possibly pull off the win, or I'm sorry, not pull off the win, but pull off making her salary. She would have to score to break even. You're looking at 95 points. To get, for value, cash value. For a GPP, she'd have to score over 100. So that means she would have to have over 120 significant strikes plus multiple takedowns. And then the decision victory is 30. So you're looking at, 110 points.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot these days.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to see because Torres is one of those, like you said, she's very durable. She's not going to give up. She has cardio for days, and just her strike output alone is going to be fairly high. And if it does turn into a grappling battle, then now you're worried about whose striking is going to be depleted, or who's not going to score the points. Torres, if she's put on her back, she's pretty active. She's going to be throwing elbows. She's going to be throwing punches. She's going to be throwing basically reverse hammer fists from the bottom. She's going to be trying to strike from the bottom. So she's going to stay busy. She's not going to just sort of hold on. She's not going to try to lay and pray. Andrade is the same thing. She's going to be very aggressive. This is a very interesting fight, but at the same time, from a DFS standpoint, it's almost you have to either pick the underdog or you're going to have to either pass on the fight because it's sort of one of those things where, can Andrade pay off her salary? I mean, I think she's going to be lower owned just because of the fact that it's a harder fight for her, and it's a possibility that she could, with her being lower owned, she could be GPP and cash viable, because I don't think anybody's going to want to pay that for the unknown. So that's how I feel about that fight so far.
Okay, so now finally to our main event.
Yeah.
We've got, and this is actually something for you guys watching on Facebook or watching live on YouTube. Remember, come to Facebook. You gotta like the page. This is contest time. Sorry, let me start over. Like the page, like Wise Take, and like the video, the current video on Facebook Live, even if you're watching it a little bit later. And here's what we're gonna do. If you guys can guess the winner and the points that they're able to score during this fight for DFS, we will be giving away a free week of all access to wisetake.com to the winner. The closest person to point value and winner has to be the person who wins the fight, and their points will win that again. I'll repeat that in a minute. Let's get to the breakdown, but I do want to say this.
You said all access? You mean like NBA, NASCAR, PGA?
That is correct.
MMA?
That is
Oh
correct.
my
Not
goodness.
just the MMA package, guys. It is golf, NBA, NASCAR.
Wow.
So this is
Can
a
I get
great
in
this is
on
a
something?
great one to win. Especially you guys will have some fun. You'll see more of I'm sure you'll see more of Wig's smiling face. You'll get to see Cash, Patio Joe, CK, Paulie D. You get to join all the boys, and then you're probably
OG.
gonna want to stay with us because they're gonna be winning you some money, and they're just fun to watch, man. If you guys haven't seen their pods
Man.
yet,
And
they're
the
blessed.
the chat groups for each and every sport are off the chain. I mean, there's so many people in there just talking up DFS. You can learn just from the chat group because we have so many members that are just knowledgeable themselves. I mean, I'm telling you, I go in there and I chop it up with the NBA guys all the time because I'm still learning NBA. I
Yeah,
mean, I mean, it's one of those things where okay, let me learn. Let me
yeah.
get my learning hat on.
It's a great place to learn, great place to grow your DFS game, and at the same time, like I said, right now you're about if you guys decide if you can pick them and you can guess the point value too, then you get yourself a free week and you see what we're talking about. So here we go. Again, it's Jeremy Stevens. Jeremy Stevens is fun to watch. Always been fun to watch. This guy comes to fight. And I love it for that. That's why I feel terrible that I'm missing this live in person because no matter what, you're gonna go and enjoy this fight no matter what because this guy comes to fight. I love it. He's actually had a resurgence as of late. Before he was like a gatekeeper, middle of the road. He's definitely changed his game up a little bit. He's become older and wiser as opposed to older and possibly dementia and maybe concussed or something from as much head trauma as he's taken. He got the good side of it just because of the fact that, I mean, dude, this guy doesn't play around. He comes to fight.
No.
And it doesn't matter who it is, he's going to want to stand and trade with them. Sometimes that works for him, sometimes that doesn't. I mean, he proved me wrong last fight because he just beat Doo-Ho Choi. Like I said, he's 3-2 of his last five. He just beat Doo-Ho Choi, who's no joke regardless of what you might think. The Korean Superboy can fight. And then he also just beat Gilbert Melendez before that. You know, the only people he lost to recently are Renato Carnero and Frankie Edgar. But he's also beaten Renan Barao, which is on this same card. And Renan Barao is no joke either. So, I mean, you've got a solid guy. And especially in his last fight, he's learned more to pick his shots. He's learned more of just more technicality to his striking. And he can knock people out, period. Yep. I mean, if you decide to stand and trade, you're basically playing with your life because if you want to take a nap, I mean, it might happen because if he catches him, he will. And he's learned not to just rush in anymore. He used to be the barbarian type that would just come in swinging like crazy at the end of a fight when he knew he was down on points. Not so much anymore. Now he's actually picking his shots and staying patient. And that's what he showed off against Doo-Ho Choi. Because Doo-Ho Choi started frustrating him a little bit, but he just kept his composure, which is something he had a problem with back in the day. So this is a new guy. For me, new fighter, enjoyable to watch. Now, we've got Josh Emmett, who's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He just knocked out Ricardo Lamas in a disgusting manner. I mean, my God, call the ambulance. I mean,
send him into the shadow realm.
Yeah, no, he hit him so hard, his grandpapa felt it. I mean, my God, that was nasty. And you know, he's training with Team Alpha Male. So again, training with killers, and especially look who's in his same weight class. You got Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt is the truth. So if he trains with this guy consistently, you're looking at somebody with clean hands who cannot put your lights out as well at any time. Mind you, the only real notable competition he's had is Ricardo Lamas, but you saw what he can do. So, and Ricardo Lamas is not a joke. Ricardo Lamas is in the top of the division for a reason, and poor guy just can't seem to put enough of them together to get himself a title shot. He's beaten Felipe Arantes. Like I said, he's 13-1. You know, so I mean, the guy is solid. He's really, you know, a tough dude. Period. Trains a Team Alpha Male with a bunch of killers. So his game, I have to assume that his game is decent, is well-rounded, even on the ground. Because at Team Alpha Male, I know Uriah Faber puts these guys into the trenches when it comes to their ground game and their stand-up game. While Dwayne Ludwig isn't there anymore, whatever it is, there's other trainers there that are just doing just the same. They've got Danny Lascal Castillo. They've got that other trainer who Justin something amazing. another amazing trainer. So they're not for lack of talent over at Team Alpha Male. This one could really go either way. So this is either going to be a stepping stone for Josh Emmett or a stepping stone for Jeremy Stephens, because no matter who wins, they're definitely shooting up in the rankings, especially. Jeremy Stephens has been on fire lately. What's your take on this last fight, man?
You know, the crazy thing is, and you brought it, you had a good point, is Stevens has been in the fight game and in the UFC level for 12 years.
Yeah.
Now, if you think about that, take that into context. Some guys don't even last 2 years. Yet he's been fighting for 12 at the top of the food chain and crushing guys. And at the same time, he's evolving. He's becoming a better, more patient fighter and still utilizing his strengths, which is his power, his elusiveness. And he just, it's crazy to say that somebody that has been fighting for 12 years is getting better. That makes it even scarier. And now that this is a main fight card, or, you know, the main event against a guy like Josh Emmett, who's an absolute monster, man, I mean, it's exciting. Both these guys are, I mean, if you look at their salaries, Josh Emmett is 7,600. He's a plus 140 underdog. Steven's salary is 8,600, and he's a minus 160 favorite. It's fairly close to a pick 'em. I know a lot of people are probably going to be on Stevens because of his, you know, name notoriety, but you can't sleep on a guy like Emmett. The only concern that I have with Emmett is the fact that if he can make weight, if he comes in overweight again, I think it's probably going to be more than just a slap on the wrist by the UFC, because it'll be his second time in 3 fights. So that'll be an issue. Evans, on the other hand, I mean, he's gritty. I mean, he's one of those guys where you can't count him out in any fight. But if he gets into a stand and bang brawl, man, oh man, this could be one of those things where it could turn into a 5-round battle, man.
Yeah, listen,
and it's gonna be. I'm excited. I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, no, listen, it's like good old JR. So this is gonna be a slobber knocker, a barn burner. Yep. This is the one, man. This is one I'm really excited about, because these guys can take punishment too. So, but at any time, you could see that flash KO happen with that right chin shot, and it's going to be nice. You're going to see a highlight reel, and if not, you're going to see some darn good stand-up. And, you know, it's going to be fun to watch, because, like you said, Stevens is 12 years in, and he's getting better, which is scary, because he's got power still, and he's not a joke. You know, and then you got Josh Emmett on the come-up, but he's not a slouch either. You know, his pedigree is already from where he trains and what he's done to top-level talent. So, plain and simple, this is a great card to watch. This is a lot of fun. I mean, DFS-wise or not, it's just fun to watch as a fan and for DFS. So, I mean, that being said, like I said, we just want to remind you guys one more time, this is the fight to watch. If you guys get through the card, please let us know what you think. Again, the contest is, how many points is the winner of this fight going to score? Pick the winner and pick their point value. Closest person to the fight value and the winner is the one that gets a free pass, and we'll contact you via PMs on Facebook. All right. Remember to likewise take as well.
All it is picking Emmett or Stevens, and then picking their DraftKings salary or their DraftKings points output.
All right. So that being said, guys, as always, whether it be YouTube, whether it be Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, anywhere else, give us a like, give us a 5-star review. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Tell us what you want to see more of. We're here for you. We want to make sure that we make this as fun and enjoyable and entertaining as we can, as well as informative. So, besides that, let us know. We always have fun putting it out there for you, and we only want to keep making it better. Besides that, I think we're out. You can find us on Twitter. Actually, I almost forgot. You can find us on Twitter. Please feel free to hit us up. I'm at El Stevo. He's at Jeff P.O. Hit us up on Twitter. Let us know what you think about the fight cards as well. We love to chat it up with all the fans. We're fight fans as well, so we like to chat it up about DFS, MMA, or pretty much anything else. So you can find us on there. On that note, though, we are going to get out of here. As always, enjoy the fights, guys. Have fun. Be safe out there, and we'll see you on Saturday for the premium DFS MMA podcast. So for WigSpitter, I'm El Stevo. And we're out.
Peace.
Yeah.